it's same like Arsenal fans were telling me, like a couple of the guys were like, "Oh, who do you replace Arteta with? There's no one available." But if a big club wants a manager, you go and pay.
Bro, I'll be real. There's always someone available. When Wenger left or when Emery
yeah.
left, bro, there's always going to be someone available. Like, weren't these clubs able to bring in managers before? So what's gonna change?
Look, maybe you're right. Money talks, but I don't know. I just thought it's what I'm trying to say is someone like Klopp would be far fetched, right? Even if he did come, even if there was a possibility, it'd be far fetched. So what I'm trying to say is, if we're not going to go down, far fetched, options, there's no clear candidate for me, right? No. So therefore, you're going for another potential, right? But Maresca was already a potential. Then my second point to answer your question is, like you just pointed out, I don't like we discussed about Man United last week. I don't think it's about the manager. You can bring in any manager you want, right? Yeah. If things are rotten from the top down, it doesn't matter what manager you have. At the end of the day, when your sporting directors are whack, right? When your recruitment policies are whack, and you're, like you said, you're bringing in a bunch of, you are essentially playing roulette, right? Because these guys are 16, 17, 18 years old, great potential, but there's no guarantee that they're going to produce for you
what about Mudryk, bro?
At the top level.
This guy's caught a case, man.
Forget him for now. But so my point is, right? That's why I'm just like, for me, my first thing wouldn't be get rid of Maresca. My first thing would be get rid of the sporting directors. Bring in better sporting directors. Improve your recruitment policy. Yeah. Now, this might be a wild take here, but I think Joe Cole said this, but I agree with it. He said KDB's leaving City, yeah? Again, it seems far-fetched, it seems unrealistic, but I'm sure if Chelsea's chuck enough money at him, they're like, why don't Chelsea go out and get someone like KDB? And they were like, even if he plays half the games in the season, that mentality in the dressing room, imagine what that would do for the younger players in the dressing room when either results are going your way or when results aren't going your way. And I sat there and I was like, when you always look at Chelsea, whenever we've had success, right? Even more recently, when you can argue that we had a younger team, but we had success, the Champions League win in 2021, even though we had youngsters like Mason Mount and guys like Kai Havertz obviously was in our team, you had a good balance of we had people like Thiago Silva, we had people like Antonio Rudiger. You had that experience at Azpilicueta, right? You still had these guys in the team who brought that balance of. Whereas right now the problem is our most experienced in terms of our most senior player in terms of experience is Enzo Fernandez, and we bought him 3 seasons ago, and he's I don't even know how many senior appearances he's had now. But the point is that that's our most senior player. So that's where I think the problem is.
And if he's injury free, I think he would start.
Who?
KDB.
Yeah, exactly. Of course he would start. So this is the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying
he probably holds some animosity towards Chelsea as well.
Yeah, of course, right. So I'm not even saying specifically KDB. Yeah, I'm not even specifically saying KDB. But what I am saying is, I'm saying maybe people who have just got more experience. Their best days might be behind them, but they've got a winner's mentality and they've got the experience.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because do you remember when Arteta first came into Arsenal, right? You look at the fact that we had.
Sorry, it worked with Thiago Silva. Is my point. Thiago Silva is a good example of what I'm trying to say.
And he had success with him as well. So,
yeah, exactly.
No, what I was just quickly going to say is that when he first came in, you look at the Arsenal dressing room, right? And you had no leaders. The captaincy game where went to Aubameyang, right? Who probably wasn't the best captain, but at least he was able to score goals. And now we're in a position where Martin Odegaard has fallen off this season, right? I don't know if it's because of that injury he had in November or what's happened, right? But do you not feel like sometimes when it can also be the captaincy can also be a curse in some ways, because sometimes maybe the player, he needs to just take some time off to kind of just find himself and then come back into the team. Yeah. Well, when you are the creative player and you're captain as well, you're stuck, because the manager's also stuck as well, because he can't be like, oh, well, I'm going to bench you, because if you're going to bench your captain, it just doesn't make any sense. I think now Arsenal's in a position where you look around that whole dressing room. There's a lot of leaders in there. You've got Declan Rice, you've got Gabriel Magalhaes, you've got Bukayo Saka. I just think, was he the right appointment to make in terms of captain of an Arsenal Football Club? I actually think that...
Who's that, Odegaard?
Odegaard, yeah. I actually think, great football player, but... and we don't know what happens behind closed doors, but I think...
to be fair, that surprised me.
I actually think...
Yeah, seeing Odegaard as captain.
Yeah.
I would.
But who else would you give it to currently in that team?
Bro, we'd give it to Gabriel Magalhaes, his leader, or Declan Rice.
Didn't he come after Odegaard?
Why does that matter?
No, it doesn't. But I'm saying that they probably rewarded him for his performance here. And there was a time, because there was a few years, when Gabriel was a bit shaky at the back. But with Saliba, of course, they became one of the best duos in Europe together. But
I just feel
with Odegaard, I think they probably...
Who was your captain before Odegaard?
Before Odegaard, it was Aubameyang, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he got shipped off to Barca.
Yeah, it was Aubameyang.
So wait, Odegaard got captaincy immediately after Aubameyang?
Unless there might have been an interim period of like Lacazette. I can't remember.
I don't remember if they gave it to anyone else after. Well, obviously when he left because he got shunned out.
I think it went straight to Odegaard.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe Lacazette for a little bit.
I don't know why I feel like Odegaard only got it like last season or something.
No.
Nah, he's had it, I think he's had it for 2 or 3 now.
Oh, really?
I just think, look, I hear a lot of talk about, Odegaard's this behind closed doors, he's a proper leader, right? But I think when you're on the football pitch, I see none of that. All I hear is just hair flicking this way, hair flicking that way, right? And snot coming out of his nose, right? But I don't know, you guys perhaps don't watch Arsenal that much, or maybe you do, right? But when you look at like the leaders on that pitch, like who stands out to you? For me, it's always Gabriel Magalhaes or Declan Rice is pushing people on or to tell people to calm down, right? I feel like on the football pitch, you need that. And yeah, you can argue, fine, look, you can have multiple leaders on the pitch, but I just feel like, is there an argument to say that someone like him perhaps shouldn't have the captaincy because he's we don't have that many creative players, right? And is that putting too much pressure on him?
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, but I think that's where, like, not to bring like own United stuff into it, but that's where that's where I see a difference in a player. You see him second in the league, Arsenal playing very well last few seasons. Does he step up as much as Bruno does?
But I do think I think there's a recency bias there, because in one hand you've got a player in Bruno Fernandes who's having his best ever season at Man United, and on the other hand you've got a player in Martin Odegaard who's having the worst season.
Bruno's best ever season was his first one, the one when he broke Lampard's
Okay, well, if we were to compare it for this season alone, right? You got well, it's probably Bruno's second best season.
Yeah, second
in terms of like the way he's carrying the team as well, right?
Yeah.
And you got the worst season for Martin Odegaard, right? So I feel like there's a bit of recency bias there, because previously Martin Odegaard has been fantastic. I actually think he's a technically better footballer than Bruno Fernandes. Look at the passes that he was making against Chelsea. Remember that Chelsea game that outside the boot to Havertz? That was a sick goal.
Yeah, but Bruno's done so many. Look at Bruno's through ball, Atalanta Champions League. That through ball to Rashford. What a ball!
Yeah,
like no one had that vision. Unreal. That's like Ozil vision, Perla vision.
Yeah,
I think the difference between Odegaard.
I'm not gonna get involved.
No, the difference between Odegaard and Bruno is Bruno is better. I think he's got better vision and he's better at the long Hollywood balls. Yeah. I think what Odegaard is better at
is tight spaces.
Is the incisive ones.
Yeah,
through the gaps.
That just shows you the different type of player, because you got a player in Martin Odegaard who's very good at linking up play, short passes, obviously can hit that 20-yard pass as well. But I feel like the way Man United plays, that's basically to Bruno's strength, which is try and drill that ball as far as you can to the player.